So this is fascinating because it sounds like you had this second career, if you will, that was taking off. COVID happens. Everyone's ordered to go sit in their houses. Pretty much everything that you had done up until that point was destroyed, right? There's no photo shoots, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, like it all just goes to zero. What's your reaction when that occurs? How do you think about it? And what did you do?
Well, I had what is commonly called a red-pilled moment. So it gave me the opportunity to question everything I thought I believed. And that's quite the paradigm shift. It happened suddenly, but incrementally. But I had something traumatic, with the shutdown happens because all of my income was gig economy and freelance, finding my way. And I did so many things, but there has to be international travel and there has to be live events and there has to be that ecosystem to support, free market opportunities. So suddenly all my income turned off because I hadn't done the internet monetization or anything like that. I was just happily enjoying my life. And then all of a sudden it came to a screeching halt. And then they started doing things like turning people's power and water off if they were gathering in their homes and all these just things that made me really need to go look at what I thought about size of government and those types of things.
Okay, so before we get into the finance and government side, let's just talk about from like a business perspective.
Okay.
You've got a great business, multiple streams of income, everything's going awesome. COVID happens, income goes to zero. What do you do? Do you try to just scramble and figure out online and like other types of revenue channels? How did you kind of navigate?
Well, it was tough. At least I had some savings from the years. So I burned through that in about 6 months. And I was astonished that we weren't over this yet. So I was angry, it's hard to not be.
And so when you think about like that anger, is that coming from you're angry that there's the shutdown, you're angry at yourself that you had everything kind of in the analog world? Like what was driving that anger?
Well, I was always aware that anything could come bring my freelancing to a screeching halt, but it was never supposed to be government. They were never supposed to create problems for me. But I was always aware that there was no safety net for me because that was the exchange that I had made. I wasn't, talk about risk aversion and things like that. I'm not a person that's particularly afraid of those things because they're always there. So then when I saw everybody's reaction to, the virus, it was recalibrating of everything I thought that was happening around me.
And so as this plays out, you said you had kind of this red pill moment. What were the things that maybe were antithetical to what you previously believed, or the changes in opinion that you had as this all played out?
Well, size of government and their ability to the whole emergency powers and being able to make decisions for you. The transparency of the media brought that into question. The amount of coordination between nations to just wave your hand and shut down the world, that was kind of astonishing to me. There were things that I had always heard conservatives say, but I just hadn't had an opportunity to see it in the world to really point at that thing and say, this is what, over-regulation looks like. I'd heard people say that, but I didn't really know what that meant.
And is it fair to say that, and this is a huge overgeneralization, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Los Angeles and kind of Southern California is generally seen as a very liberal-leaning type of geographic region. People, for the most part, it seems like the government is going to save us. The government has the right solutions. The government is going to step in here. And so this red pilling that you went through almost kind of went counterfactual to, or was a narrative violation to those around you, right? It seems like it's almost like, while the majority of people felt one way, you started to, again, break the mold and think for
Yes.
yourself to some degree, right?
Yes. And that's frowned upon. Which,
explain why is it frowned upon?
well, it's frowned upon because they would prefer that you not challenge any of those beliefs, because it leads other people to doing the same. And I didn't know that disagreeing was going to cause me to lose opportunities and friends, even family members, that type of thing. But it will. And I feel like that's contrary to the entire concept of freedom of speech and freedom of opinion and, diversity of thought. And that opened my eyes to a lot, and the problems with mob mentality, cancel culture. It just opened up a door to everything, because if you agree with things like the shutdown, then the left just turns its back on you entirely, and it just eats itself in that way. So I guess I'm just a product of the fact that I had a disagreeing opinion for shutting the economy down locally. And then people make me the bad guy in that situation, which is crazy because I have no institutional powers whatsoever. What does it really matter what I say or think?
When you say people make you the bad guy, is this more like industry, friends, and kind of forces, or more of like the social media world and people being toxic or whatever online?
Well, you can always minimize the latter by not talking about it a lot, but it was all I was thinking about. So, and I was having my own journey. It was more like a public, an opportunity for me to digest what was happening and my evolution. It was just publicly happening because a lot of it was the ideas and the arguments were coming from, online. But yeah, I changed my entire media sources and the people I followed and engaged with. And yeah, it was really recalibrating. And you can never undo it.
What was the most surprising part of all of this? And I ask that as I think that there's some people who had a starting point that was like halfway down the red pilling pathway, and then this all exasperated it. But you strike me as somebody who went through the full experience, right, from kind of start to finish during this. And so what was the most surprising thing that you kind of took away from that experience?
Other people's unwillingness to let you change and be fine with it, because everybody has this little characterization of who you are. They're not actually able to really roll with the fact that you're going to evolve, because usually evolution is slow, but this happened rather aggressively. I mean, I can benchmark it from a 1-year point. So I sound different. All my interests are different. My perspectives of history, I had to relearn everything I ever believed historically.
So when people hear that, there's two schools of thought. The people who agree with you are going to say, amazing. She, was taught one thing. She thought one way. That's the incorrect way of thinking. And now she's seen the light, and look how smart she is because she agrees with, what we agree with. The people who disagree with the way you think now say, oh my God, she changed her information sources. She created an echo chamber. What an idiot. That's the problem in America. And we've got to prevent that from happening to the masses, right? I always laugh. I'm literally laughing as I'm asking the question because it feels like those two extremes obviously provide like the truth somewhere in between there. And so walk us through from almost like an execution or application standpoint of when you say you changed your information sources, what were they? What did you change them to? What were the types of people that you started to consume content from that you hadn't been from before? Just whatever you can share on that front.
Well, I wouldn't want to risk getting your video demonetized or get you in trouble. So I'm trying to edit myself to a.
You can say, listen, you can say whatever you want to say. Don't worry about monetization on YouTube, which, by the way, the fact that that's the first thing you think of may be part of the problem.
Well, and I'm not a YouTuber and I don't rely on that, but, I don't rely on brand endorsements or any of that. That was one great thing that made me have, be in the right situation where I could speak my mind, and I realize how many people can't or aren't allowed to. People will message me and say, hey, I agree with your politics, but I'm afraid I work in Hollywood and, that won't go well. And so it was just really surprising to me, the amount of people that want to but can't. And then I saw that phenomenon and I was like, well, it means I need to speak even more.